got another great video, another gem of a video today. Okay, look, commonly misused words. This is a big one for me. Okay, as a proofreader, I'm used to seeing a lot of strange anomalies in people's thesis and essays, on books as well. And I think doing a video like this helps me sort of put it out there, sort of what the actual issues are. Just give a handy little list, you know. I know content is content, you know. I mean, commonly misused words. I'll be straight up the top of the YouTube algorithm at this. So look, being PC. Okay, so this is a big one. Okay, a lot of people make these mistakes, and look at these lads. These are having a great time being PC. Now they're probably moving a bit too much. How do we turn them off? There's no way to turn them off. Let's just leave them there. These are the type of words that were once in use by academics and lay people, for want of better words. But now it's time to put them into the distant past. So just be very careful whenever you're doing a study that you don't use these words. You don't use this word, you use disability. Instead of this one, disabled person. Okay, and these are going to always change over time. It's quite possible that this list I have here, it might be out of date, so it's always good just to check up whatever. If you're in the social sciences, just keeping up with like what's the HSC definition of the term now. Even in business speak has changed, so we don't generally use, especially stuff with the definite article in front of it, like the blind. You know, it's sort of like, even, you know, there's a lot of force behind that word now. So that's why it's always best to use like blind and partially sighted people or visually impaired people. Okay, so there's always things. And then you have like the sexist terms, like man on the street, you know, people in general. You know, so whenever you're sort of, and look, I'm very guilty of this sort of stuff as well. I am a dinosaur. I'm a relic of the past. But I'm trying my best, you know. But I will sometimes slip into manpower, man-made, man on the street. You know, I'm very comfortable saying man on the street. I say it probably way too many times. Seminal, obviously, comes from semen, so you know it's very a male-orientated word. Disseminate is also another thing. Where's another one? Man errors, that's another common one. I mean, there's much more than this, but this is a nice little thing. And these lads just keep going. I thought this GIF would have played out, but it's just keep going. But they're having a great time there. Commonly misused words along with their correct usage. Okay, so as a proofreader and editor, for my sins, I'm used to seeing a whole lot of these words being misused. This is not me, you know, calling people out or saying like, you know, making fun of them or anything like that. It's just a way for me to say, because most of my job these days is in an academic consultancy capacity. So I do obviously do proofreading and editing. But a lot of my work now is like how to do academic writing more correctly, how to align your research question with your objectives better. And then the proofreading is right down the list of stuff I do. I still love doing it. I still, obviously, the service is there for anyone who wants to use it. But this list is just a way for me to say, here, look, you know, you can tidy up what you have here. If you don't have the time to come to me or whatever reason, just watch this video then instead, and just make sure that you get these words and their incorrect usage out of your brain. There, and there. Okay, they're very common ones. Okay, there is like possession, you know, their books. There is, as it says there, location. The cat is over there, and there is a shortened version of they are. So they're going to the store. Okay, you're and your, very common one. If you're having an argument on the internet and you happen to misuse one of these, that means your argument is null and void. Okay, so you may have the greatest point ever, but God help you if you use the wrong form of this. So that's ultimate defeat. So that's a term or a form of seppuku, I think the term is, where you essentially ritualistically annihilate yourself. So be very careful if you're having an argument on YouTube or Facebook, not to use the incorrect version of this, okay? I'm gonna have a drink of water here. So there's a few more there. Who's and whose, okay? So whose is contraction of who is, of course, who's coming to the party, and then whose book is this. Farther, further, another common one as well. A lot of people have in their conclusion chapter, you know, further research, you know, instead of further research. Fewer and less. So fewer is used with countable objects. There are fewer people in the room. Less is used with uncountable quantities. I have less time to complete the task. So that's more of a, we'll get to this soon, don't worry about that. But this comes under a different category. Except, okay, so that's another one of those common things for ESL students to get wrong, because obviously it kind of sounds the same. And then complement and complement is another common one you see. Your findings complement other findings, which is this one. And compliment is, she gave him a compliment on his trousers. Yes, I'm not going to say too much about why someone is complimenting trousers, but don't ask me why I use that example. Principal. That's another common one as well. If you have any sort of principal duties of someone. And I can also refer to a person who holds a high position, like school principal. And then obviously principle is fundamental truth or concept. Example, she adheres to a strict set of principles. Peak, and peak. Okay, so another one of those. Peak is the highest point. Peak to take a quick glance at someone. And then peak is like, this one is the quick glance at someone. And then peak is sort of like peak physical fitness, or peak strength, like you're the optimal, the ultimate, Effectual, effective. So that's another common one I see. Imply and infer. So anyone doing your critical analysis, critical engagement is going to come across this one. Infers to deduce or conclude based on evidence or reason. Example, from his silence we can infer that he disagrees. Now, this is a word that has in my other video on critical thinking terminology. This is a common term that has been misinterpreted. So just make sure to not misinterpret yourself. I'm going to go with a wood grain look here in the background as I keep going. So cite, and cite. More often than not, the one you're going to be using in your academic examples is cite, which is to refer to a source or quote. And then casual and causal. That's another common one here. Causal refers to cause and effect. There is a causal relationship between smoking and lung cancer. Casual refers to something relaxed or informal. The dress code for this party is casual. And then illicit and illicit. Okay, so they both sound the same, okay? Illicit means to draw out or evoke a reaction. Illicit refers to something illegal or forbidden. And then explicit and implicit. So as we can see here, explicit means clearly stated or expressed. Implicit means implied or understood. So sometimes this is why you sort of need to hire an expert, okay? So sometimes where a proofreader and editor comes in, because sometimes there's often terminology in a thesis that you're kind of saying to yourself, well, I mean, the punctuation and grammar I'm okay on, but the actual context I may not be okay on. And that's where sometimes hiring an expert comes in handy, because some words go beyond simply being miswritten. Some are misconstrued altogether. So let's have an example of that here, okay? So one of the big ones you see it in a lot of news outlets and reporting is casualty. So casualty refers to a person who has been killed or injured in a war, accident or other unfortunate event. It encompasses both fatalities and non-fatal injuries. So casualties can include individuals who are wounded, missing or killed, and this is as opposed to death, which is final. While casualty is a broader term encompassing both deaths and injuries, death specifically refers to the irreversible cessation of life. Now, oftentimes you'll see, and I see it sometimes in people's thesis, where you talk about the casualties of war, and then what follows after that is a number of how many people died. But that's not what casualty means. So as it says here, it encompasses people killed or injured in war. So that's a very important example there. Where that example comes from and how I learned to recognize stuff like that, it comes from a book here, The Elements of Style by Strunk and White, and this book is very, very good. And this is what I learned from. So anyone who says to me like, how do you know the difference between that and that, or where did you learn that from? This book here, and it's an old book, and my own supervisor put me onto it, and it really has helped me a huge amount. I think the best way to do it is just to show you some examples from it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the book, and we're going to look at some select passages in it, and you'll see why this book is very, very good. There's a lot of common mistakes people make, and as an examiner, when you're looking at stuff like that, you're kind of saying, okay, well, they should have known that, because most of the time examiners will know this book, and they will be aware to look out for certain mistakes or certain misconstrued concepts and words. So let's have a look here and see what we can see. Now, welcome back to the Bill Mallon Kindle library. I need to double check later on if there's any spurious books on that list. Now, we need to get that to zoom in a bit. Okay, we're back. Right, so look, let's have first of all, get me down into a little spot. You stay up there now, where you're safe. So let's have a look. Okay, so here's the book, Elements of Style by Strunk and White. As I said, it's only €1 on Kindle last time I checked. We want to just scroll through a few pages here. Okay, so look, as you see from the table of contents, it goes through all the stuff that proofreaders like myself would have learnt off and spent many an hour fawning over. For the purposes of this video, words and expressions commonly misused, we're going to have a look at that one. Okay, so we're not going to go through everything, but I'm just going to give you a quick preview of the book. So aggravate, irritate. The first means to add to an already troublesome or vexing matter or condition. The second means to vex, to annoy, or to chafe. Okay. All right. Idiomatic in familiar speech as a detached phrase in the sense agreed or go ahead or okay. Properly written as two words, all right. Okay, now that's a very common one where people just think it's, the one word. And I see that a lot of times in fiction. Sometimes that slips through even in this day and age. So it goes from A to Z, it goes through everything here. Allude, don't confuse with allude. Alternate, alternative, among, between. Now this is going to be for the really, the pedants, like myself, who are really finicky about certain things. But there's a time and a place, there's a time and a place for anything. And a lot of these slip through because generally, they're probably a little bit down the list of things of people or of things people should know or care about. So when more than two things or persons are involved, among is usually called for. The money was divided among the four players. When, however, more than two are involved, but each is considered individually, between is preferred. An agreement between the six heirs. I wish the Kindle was easier to navigate. I really do. Different than. Disinterested means impartial. Currently in the sense of now with a verb in the present tense. Currently is usually redundant. Emphasis is better achieved through more precise reference to time. Now this is a very interesting one here, okay? This is why it's great for a coffee table book. You can wow people at parties with this as much as you want. Flammable, an oddity, chiefly used in saving lives. The common word meaning combustible is inflammable, but some people are thrown off by the in and think inflammable means not combustible. For this reason, trucks carrying gasoline or explosives are now marked flammable. Unless you're operating such a truck and hence are concerned with the safety of children and illiterates, use inflammable. Now, one thing I will say about the book, it is a bit old, okay? So it does use non-PC terms at times, and it doesn't shy away from its age. So don't be alarmed if you see some peculiar old-timey words and some quite misogynistic and at times racist language used in it, okay? But most of them are sort of, most of them are grand. Many nouns have been lately pressed into service as verbs. Not all are bad, but all are suspect. Be prepared for kisses when you gift your girlfriend with this merry scent. Be prepared for kisses when you give your girlfriend this merry scent, okay? She headquarters in Newark. She has headquarters in Newark. Off-putting, ongoing, newfound adjectives to be avoided because they're inexact and clumsy. Ongoing is a mix of continuing and active and is usually superfluous. So yeah, it's just giving you a good example. It's a great book. I mean, there's a lot of pages in it, which is great value. You can be just like me if you just spend €1 on this book, and there's no greater endorsement for a book than being a giant nerd like me. So if you're interested in the type of nerdyism that I'm exuding through the camera at the moment, then this book is for you, baby. You can't go wrong. So that's basically the book, and as I note here, you should basically just buy the book. Fairly cheap. I mean, you get it for 99 cents, so you get it cheaper for that actually if you shop around. It's a definite book you should have in your library, and it's an interesting book. Even as we can saw from the examples there, it is actually one of those books you'd have on the coffee table, where I'm not saying it's going to replace Netflix or anything like that, but if you have it in your eye line at all times and just have a flick through it every once in a while, it really does help improve your writing, and it does give you a sort of a broader vocabulary. Now we've come to the outro. So this video has just been a very short one on the misuse of words. It's for people who may not say or may not come to a proofreader that often, or may not see the need for one, but they want to sort of get some basics on it. So I've showed you some words there people often misconstrue, people misinterpret, especially the casualty and debt one. And we went through the book and we saw other examples. I really think you should buy that book. The book is very good and it's a very interesting book, and it's certainly going to help you with your academic writing.